Good morning, Susan. How are you?
Hi, Elaine.
All right. So, for today, we will be making like part two of perspective, where we will apply everything that we did last week to creating something that looks three-dimensional. But we will use photographs or reference images of houses and apply those rules on the house, because this is what you're going to be doing out in the field. You will see something and then you will translate that into the two, I guess, just the perspective lines and the horizon line and all of those. And then that is going to help you make the houses or buildings or roads or whatever you need more accurately. So what I hear, Elaine, from you is that you're not able to draw it correctly on paper. But I think there are two aspects to this. Are you able to see it first? Because if you can't see how the lines are receding or they are expanding,
I
then
can see where the lines are receding, but they go off into infinity.
yeah,
You know
it
what I'm
doesn't matter.
saying? So all the time we've been practicing with this line and two perspective where we have the dots.
But you don't need them.
That's what I want to know. How do you not need them?
You
Where do
just
you
need,
go?
no, so you just need to see the angle that you see. If you were to imagine the scene as a two-dimensional photograph or a picture. So what we are trying to do is crunch space. What we see or what we perceive is a three-dimensional world. So when you look at a building, you can see it as a proper building. So it's got a wall on the left, wall on the right. Maybe it's a cuboid. It's got some kind of roof structure. That is in front of us. But if you think about it, there's an image that is actually falling on our eyes, on our retina. It's not the building, you know what I mean? It's still an image, and the image is two dimensional. But what gives us the perception of three dimensionality is how these lines work in on a in a flat two-dimensional space. So it's pretty much exactly what we are receiving at the back of our eye and processing in our brain to understand the 3D. So if you do it very mechanically and say, I need these 2 points, you are again distancing yourself from how you are seeing things. You are trying to bring in a tool which you feel you can just use this tool and everything will be fine. But that is not that is fine to study how perspective works. But beyond that, there are very, very few occasions where you will have the one point that indicates your vanishing point. Very few. What you will have is indications of where the vanishing point might be somewhere in the infinite distance outside of your frame. Okay, so we'll do that today. I'll give you, it's not difficult at all. It is being able to see and being able to translate edges to angles that you need. So last time, you remember, I'll just go over what we did last time so we can refresh our memory, and then we'll come back to what we have to do today. Okay, so here we had a single point perspective and a 2 point perspective. We had a vanishing point, we had perspective lines, and we saw two kinds of views. In one case, we saw a vanishing point in the center, which which let out all these perspective lines where these different objects found themselves. And in the other case, there were two vanishing points from where the interaction between two sets of perspective lines helped us build these structures. That's how we look at it. But if you remove all of this, if I were to erase the horizon line, vanishing point, perspective lines, what do we see? We see lines. We see lines which are all radiating in some direction. In the single point perspective, they are radiating outward. In the 2 point perspective, they are still radiating outward from each vanishing point, but they are bound to meet some other vanishing point or lines from another vanishing point, and we see an interplay of two sets of radiating lines which create intersections, giving us this the opposing angles for our structures. These can also may not even be structures. So if I remove all of this, all you see is just a set of lines. That's all. And what gives these lines three-dimensional illusion is the angular lines at the top and bottom. Okay, so for today, we are going to create an illustration on this page where we are going to use something like our pencil to identify what that angle is. So I'm going to explain to you how using a pencil as a guide can help you make the line. Now, imagine that your page is your field of vision, which means that if you are looking at something, you are right now in a room in the center of which of your vision is some kind of digital device, and from there you see everything else behind you. This is actually a flat image. So if you look at what you're seeing of me, you can't perceive the depth other than the fact that there are a few places where there are clues that I'm not just squished like two pieces of paper squished behind the other. I am a squished paper, my shelf behind is a squished paper, and so on. And those are things like overlapping. I am overlapping the shelf behind me. So there is something, at least even if I'm flat, I'm on in the front of the shelves. But then there's also shadows. You will see some shadows and highlights. So that gives a certain roundness. So all these are illusions. And in this is the sense of perception of depth. So next to me, there is a set of books and drawers. Can you see that they are making a rather shallow angle downward towards the outside of the frame? So if I were to hold this pencil like this, I'm trying very hard to hold it at the angle, and it's the opposite direction. Okay, so you can see that this is coming upward. The line is obviously coming upward over here. And you can see where my eye line is. So there's a good chance that the horizon line is somewhere over here, or based on where, no, it's not about you anyway. It's based on where the camera is over here, that the horizon line is maybe somewhere over here. But then if you look at the inside of my shelf, can you see this inside line? That is pointing upward, whereas this line below was pointing downwards. So that means that somewhere over here is the horizon line. Do you see that? There's this line here, this one, the inside of the shelf, and this line here, the angle of these books. They are in opposite directions and they're all converging somewhere over here. Do you see that? That is the only clue you have that there is some depth, that my shelf is not just some sticker that I have pasted. Yeah? So looking at the flat surfaces, you will notice that they give you clues of dimension. I'm going to just turn the camera up a little bit. And you will see this angle on top of the false ceiling. Now that is again going in converging towards the middle of the page. Sorry, coming down in this direction. So when you look at my frame, suppose this is what we want to draw, or maybe even if I change it to that wall over there, you can see two lines coming from there and here, and then you have that vertical line also. In this case, because of how the camera has been placed, that vertical wall line is also not straight, so that is also at an angle, but ignore that for the moment. You will notice that the angle of the wall here is slightly flat, and the angle over here is slightly more upright. Can you see that? This is flatter and this is more upright, and all of them are coming down somewhere over here. So somewhere in this direction, they are both converging. So I just want to check, are you seeing that the lines are different? Yeah? Now, when you see this, you have to imagine that your vision is like a paper. Without moving your head or without tilting it left or right, what you see as the top is the horizontal line of your page, this page. So when you are looking at that horizontal line, or when you're looking at the top, it's not necessary that the top of your wall is going to be a horizontal line. That is merely the end of your sight, your vision. So if I were to hold a pencil in front of me, and to the best of my ability, imagine that this is parallel to the top and bottom, and likewise this is parallel to the sides. I get one tool that I can hold in my hand and figure out certain lines. So when I'm standing in my room with these lines, what I'll do is hold the pencil in front of me and create this. And what I see now, instead of holding it like that, you just have to imagine it's held like this, and I have to just tilt it in that one, I guess, plane. So I see this angle. And what I do is, in the corresponding space on the paper, I take the same angle that I have seen on top and come and place it over here. So this is the top of my eyes, what I see with my eyes. This is the bottom, and within that space I have got a line that is in a particular direction, in this case over here. So I'm going to place it like this. Then I go right back up, check where the next line is, and place it here. These two are completely independent of each other. But very often what people don't understand or find it difficult to understand is the pencil can move in all directions. I can also take it far and behind. So how can I know whether I'm reading it right? So as far as angles are concerned, it doesn't matter whether you hold it right in front of you or whether you hold it far away from you, as long as you're holding it in one plane. If you start doing this and that, then you're changing the plane. So just sideways, anything works. And as far as holding it at one particular standard distance, that works if you're using your pencil to measure distances. We are not going to do that today. That is when you have to hold your pencil at arm's length and measure everything at arm's length. You cannot measure one thing at arm's length and one thing over here, because that is changing proportion. So that is something that we're going to do another time. But for now, all we might need to do is see angles. Okay, does this make sense? Do you have any questions?
Yes, so will it also help to move your paper? So right now, if I'm trying to hold the pencil in the same direction as my wall, and then I bring it down and it's not on the same plane, so will it like sort of help to hold your paper up? Does it I mean, do you need to do that as well?
Yeah, of course. So you can always hold it up like that, look at that angle, and immediately bring it down here. That's perfectly fine. That's okay. Yeah. Anything else?
I think we'll start doing it so we'll understand it better what you explained.
Yeah. So right now we are not going to use a pencil anyway. I just needed to explain that the angles you will see will be the flat angles. So if you have any questions, if I'm in the middle of explaining something, just put it in the chat. So at the first break I get, I will try and explain it. All right. So let's look at the images that we have. All right, now here is a very simple house which can be in this house. The reason why also I've chosen something that has got sloping roofs is another problem area. Sloping roofs already have slanted lines and they are not perspective lines. So, in this case, let me try and show you. Let's look at just the bottom part of the building and we are just going to examine this right now. We look at the edge of the roof. So we get a line that's going in this direction. Maybe I'll just change it to red. It's more visible. So this is slanting upward. In any picture, once you know where the ground is, let's say, and you have a line slanting up or down, you can imagine or assume that the downward slant is where the vanishing point will be. But still, you don't have to start from there. Then if you come to the bottom of that wall itself, you will catch an angle for the bottom. Even in this case, the vertical lines are at a slight angle, but we're going to ignore that and make them straight for now. So this object can be cut as two separate things. You have a rectangular box-like shape at the bottom, and you have a triangular shape on the top. So the rectangle, can you see how these lines are creating that depth? Now, as far as this roof is concerned, this is a tilted plane, which means that we have another set of lines acting on this. So you have this part and this part. You will notice that these two also have their vanishing point somewhere in the sky. And the top of the roof is again related more to the bottom of the roof, which in a way is related to the bottom of the house itself, though it is angled in a different direction. You will see the top of the roof behaves like the bottom of the roof, though it is part of another tilted plane. Do you see that? So these structures like these are really nice to practice your just reading the lines. Then you will notice that we have a line at the top of the windows, bottom of the windows, and they are also tilting. So which means that there's a good chance that our horizon line is somewhere on the ground. We already have an indication of where the ground level is, and that is where our horizon line might be, because definitely above the blue line, the lines are tilting in one direction, and below the blue line, they're tilting in another direction. Okay, so I'm going to share this as a study. Okay. Next, we have this building. Now again in this building on the left hand side, can you see how the lines are differently angled? You have a line at the top here, which is, oh, sorry, I need a straight line. You have this line This is just the line underneath the roof. It's quite steep. And then you have this line, and then you have this line at the base of the house. You have one center line which is more or less vertical. And then again there's a tilted wall over here, but you do get enough information for how the perspective works. So this part is one wall, and this is yet another wall which is turning away from us. And in every little thing you will see perspective lines working. So the top of the door, the middle of the door, and the bottom of the door. And to some extent, Elaine, to answer your question, or rather your quandary, if you can figure out at least two of these parts, that where do the lines start tilting in one direction and then they stop, and then you have them tilting in the opposite direction, you can, for the most part, just draw radiating lines like that at the same progression, more or less, seeing that yes, they're going to the same point, more or less. You will manage to get that perspective. Literally, see, if I keep doing this, eventually I'll come to a straight line. So maybe this perspective is right, maybe somewhere here also, who knows, for this side of the wall. Okay, so this is the next one. I'm just giving all these to you so that if you feel you want to do studies, then these you can do easily. Okay. Now I wanted to attempt either this one or the next one. Yeah, let's do this one today. So this one, we can start off with first making a straight line. It's the center line over here. Now we need to know how much space we need on the left and right. And at the moment it looks like the side on the left is slightly shorter than the side on the right. Also it looks like one part of a house which is the shorter side, and there's a long part next to it. So from the bottom here I will draw a square, maybe till the edge of the building. So from the right edge to the top left edge, first floor, that's as much as I have made. And let's make a second one about the same size. And what you will notice is, while the right side of the building feels like it's longer, it is exactly the same in this picture. And that is because of the angle at which this picture has been shot. So you could have a very long building on one side and a very short side, but if you click a picture cleverly, you will get both of them fitting in the exact same spaces on either side of a center line. All right, so now we know our proportion. We can make yet another square for where the top of the building would come and the side. I think my original line is a little tilted. Now just so you know, the fact that you have a tilted line on the side of the houses, this is evidence of a 3-point perspective. So in this case, the third perspective line, or perspective invisible point, sorry, what am I saying? Vanishing point is above. So let's see if we do the rest of our drawing easily enough. All we need to do is tilt the lines on the side just a little bit on the inside. So I'm going to keep the red line so that you can see it. All right, so this is part one. Now let's get to the horizon line. I'm just going to start a line from the left, and I'm going to objectively see if the windows have any line that is part of our horizon line. There's no line over here that gives us that indication. So what you do here is go close to the brickwork, and you'll notice that one or two lines of the bricks will not be at an angle. I'm looking at this section here, and I feel our horizon line could be anywhere between 1, 2, 3, up to even 4 lines. But the true evidence is not just over here, the same, it should be the same even over here on the side. So when you look, the place where I have kept the blue line right now, you'll notice that as it goes to the right, the bricks are leaning upward, which means that maybe my horizon line is higher. There. Once I come here, you'll see that the lines over here, my blue line covers the entire line between those bricks without any angle. Are you seeing that? I'll just keep this and then we can see it in detail later. This is our horizon line, and I'm quickly drawing extra lines for the different edges that I'm noticing. The top of the first floor, the middle floor, and the bottom of the building. And then from the same points, you will have lines going outward, and they're all converging on the far side outside of our vision. There are some lines in between. Now the embellishments on the building are just beams of wood. These in architecture from the Tudor age used to be made to reinforce the clay and mud filling. That's why you have all these beautiful decorations in the building. So this is, you'll notice that the angles may not be the same on the left and the right. Like on the left, the bottom of the windows make a much shallower angle, but on the right, it is slightly steeper. So we tackle the bottom part and not the roof first, and then later on we can add the roof and the chimney and everything. Okay? All right, I'll take that as a yes. And then I'm also going to divide the building into a few parts. So as I see it, the windows are aligned in a particular manner. If we look at the square, the left edge of the window, or the right edge of the window, is exactly in the middle of this green square. And if I cut that further in half, it gives me 1, 2, 3 windows in this space. Now in all of these cases, you will see that each of these features starts at some point on our, I won't draw this line. The blue lines are just meant to tell us the starting points of some features of the building so that we don't get completely lost. Okay, let's begin. Enough of theory. All right, let's make our picture horizontally, and the first squares that we're going to make, the 4 squares, will tell you how big your picture should be. So if you make a square that's this big, your house is going to be this big, but you still need room for a roof and for chimneys on top. So we'll make the 4 squares somewhere over here, towards the bottom, and then leave about 1 square space towards the top. I am just sharing all the images with the guidelines. Just give me a second. Oh, they've come in a weird order. Okay, I'm looking at the last picture, and I see that right above the top square, I think maybe just half a square's distance is enough. So let's make a horizontal line for the squares. This is not the horizon line. On this, I'm going to draw a vertical line. This is for the placement. And I want to mark 2.5 spaces here. So I'm going to mark a space that's this big. This is the height of square number 1, square number 2, and about half the distance up will be square number 3. This should give me enough space. Maybe a little less would be fine. This. So I encourage you to do this exercise right in the beginning and take your time deciding on how big your squares should be. Okay, these are our squares. Now on this square, we have a horizon line at a particular level. I'm just going to tell you how much it is at. So based on the square that we have made, at about 1/3 the distance from the middle, or 2/3 this distance of the square from the bottom, is where our horizon line should be. I will show you how I say that as well. And it's mostly for me than for you. I don't want to give you the wrong horizon line, so I'm just checking it with you guys. So this is our horizon line here, right? And let's see, if I draw a square here to see its distance, and I take this same square down here once and then further down twice. So you can see it's this line, the horizon line, is at 2/3 the distance from the bottom. 2/3 the distance of this first square from the bottom. That is our horizon line. Okay, oops. So this is our horizon line. From here now, if you want to know the angles that we have to make the first angle this way. Make a line at the halfway mark on the top square, and the second point just a little right of the, actually it could even come to right the center. So this becomes your first angle. You don't even have to hold a pencil. This is your first angle. This is the bottom of the roof. It just happens to be at convenient locations like this. The second one is just below the halfway mark in the middle of the two squares, and at about this distance somewhere over here. So now what is the precaution you need to take? That no matter what happens, all the lines that come below, let's say line number 1, this is the horizon line, this is line number 1, all the lines that come underneath this are all going to be radiating, and it doesn't matter how accurately I draw them. This is to your point, Elaine, that it has to be exact. It doesn't have to be exact. It has to be it has to just follow the rule that you, after this, you cannot have a line that goes straight until you come very close to the horizon line. And similarly, without even knowing the points, you could continue to make lines at the bottom, so long as the bottommost line comes from the center to about one, two. So see the space between the, sorry, this is not the horizon line, this is horizon line. Sorry about that. This is the end of the box. So in this space from the horizon line to the bottom, somewhere about 1/3 the way down to the bottom of this square is where you have the base of the building. And then all the other lines can be made like this. This is only for the left. This is not how it works for the right, because on the right things are a little more steep. So we have line number 1, line number 2, horizon line. Line number 3 is the bottom of the building. Just above the horizon line, we have one line which is slightly tilted upward, which is the base of the first floor over here. Where does it go? I think that one, base of the floor, it goes past the line between the boxes to the other side. Are you getting these 3 lines? These 3 lines are the more important lines. And let's divide this square into 2 parts. Just maybe top, bottom, both is fine. And the left side we'll divide in half as well. Okay, now let's focus on just this side of the building for now, since we've drawn all these lines. Here we've got the roof, so we will make 2 lines for the roof just next to each other or parallel to each other. Then we have the black part of that further side of the wall. Then we have the black frame of the nearer side of the wall and a frame for the bottom. Now, unless it's a really thick frame, perspective lines really won't work. But as you come towards the front, you can make the front edge wider than the back edge, and this will enhance your 3D effect. Now from this section we have to make 3 parts for the window. Add one more part to the left, and on the right we will make almost a horizontal line where the window tilts, and this part goes underneath a beam on the side. This is how the window looks. It's like a bay window, and somewhere in the middle you will draw a line. Now again, this window, this line is going to be cut the window panes in half. But when you're drawing the line, you have to look at only the perspective lines. You have the line on top, which is at a particular angle. The one at the bottom is at a particular angle. This one in the middle has to be at the angle between these two, and that works. This is just like drawing those dominoes that we've done. Now there is an angle that just braces the roof. So here we can just make an angle about, even this line is visible, so you don't have to make assumptions, but you don't think about what it is, you just draw it. and right about here is where the roof will come down on the other side, and it'll come down really low. We'll get to that in a bit. Now below the roof, we'll have there's a wall, there's a little ledge there. So that ledge comes and attaches underneath the window here. What about the other side? That line is going to go somewhere to the right. See? So whatever point that vanishing point is at, this part of the window, it's not going to be like this. It's not going to be, if I were to make it really long, it's not going to be like that. It's not going to be like this. It's not going to be flat for sure. But what angle? The same angle that is operating on all the lines on the right side of the building is operating on these two lines as well. Wait, not on this one, because here the angle itself is different. So underneath this, you again have these triangular sections, and you'll see how the tops of the triangles also are pointing towards this vanishing point. As long as they are perpendicular to the wall on the left, the perpendicular lines all will go towards the same side. So at a spot like this, I kind of know what happens. You're trying to draw the wall underneath, and when you're trying to draw these angles, one angle will be like that, and then another angle would probably be like this, and it makes no sense in the grand scheme of things because you can't make a 3D of these spaces and it all starts looking wonky. So all the lines on top are they are parallel, right? And they're all going to be at different angles. This will be shallower, this will be steeper, because that's how they're above the horizon line. So that is how they are going to work. Do you get this? I don't want to lose you guys on this one. You can check that the bottom of those triangular supports comes right on top of the beam here. Now in the past, we have made designs like what we see on the building. And these designs are, again, fairly simple to make. Visualize the back of that window. And whatever line you're making, first make a straight line over there. So I see one straight line coming this way and this way. And then there's another two lines that come like this. Now these are designs which you can just draw the way they are. You will not see part of the design on the left hand side because that is being obscured by the window itself. And on this line you can now draw a curve like this. So you get the direction of the line correct first. And accommodate some space for a thick beam in the center. Okay, now let's move to the bottom part. We have windows here. This is our horizon line, and below the horizon line at maybe halfway is where the bottom of the windows is, more or less. we've drawn a line coming down the center of this square, right? And that happens to be the position of one of the windows. That's the left side of the first window in the foreground. And then the right side of that window comes about halfway through this half. I'm literally always looking at these measurements. How much on this side, how much on that side, related to the lines that we have made. So if you want, I can stop giving you a play-by-play instruction. I'm assuming that everyone is seeing what I'm seeing also. So the space in between the two windows is the center of the support, the center support underneath the window, and that is placed right above the space between these two windows. And then within that you will make 3 lines. So when you're making those 3 lines, remember how the lines that are closer to us need to be wider and bigger. The ones that are away from us or going towards the vanishing point need to be thinner and closer together. And this is the bottom. Is everyone with me so far? Okay, I'm just gonna get some water. I'll give you a couple of minutes to finish this part.
Priti, can you please explain the bottom windows again?
Yeah, I'll just come back.
Three nine seven zero nine.
Okay, so if you look at the image that I'm looking at, I'm going to show it to you on the photo itself. This is our horizon line. I'll just make it blue so we can tell the difference. And here we have the middle of the two squares. Here we have the horizon line at 1/3, and then you have the top of the windows at this particular angle. So they are at starting from about halfway up this 1/3 point to maybe 1/4 of the way on the right. So this gives you the top part of the windows. And similarly, somewhere in just above the middle part on the right hand side, and at 1/3 again below on the left hand side of the square, you can get the bottom. Can you see these angles, Shilpa? So you just make these 2 lines. These will give you the horizontal part of the windows. Then you'll notice that we have drawn this blue line. See this one?
Yes, that I got.
That is halfway in the first squares, right? So that gives you the edge of one window. And it's going to be between these two lines only, right? So you get the dimensions of that edge. Then the other edge, where do you see it over here? It's again at the halfway mark or a little less in this part of the square. And then on the other side, you also use the lines that we made, like the 1/4 line, to see where does that come in the window. So all windows and doors don't have to be fit to our lines. Our lines are used as guidelines to see where that window comes, or what part of the window comes and crosses that line, or where it sits. And it's always going to be at an odd number. It's very rare that you will have it is exactly 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, and so on. So once you've done that, then it's again a matter of seeing where that part of the window fits in our grid and drawing it accordingly. Okay.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Most welcome. Okay, now we have the left side. I'm going to ink this part before we proceed. And when the next part, we can all draw together. So whenever you are inking something like this, I'm sure everybody must be getting really scared. So one good thing is, like I keep saying, an urban sketches is supposed to be a fun, quick exercise in sketching. We are not looking for perfection. So the thing about lines is, if you want to draw your lines a little scraggly, that is fine. I will generally start drawing from what I see in the either in the front or one feature that is coming over other features. So let's say we start drawing these windows first. I'm going to draw multiple lines here, but I want you to see how I prefer to not have gaps between my lines, because gaps look like weakness in the lines. So I might have the lines go beyond the intersection, but there will not be any gaps. Now I have to make the window panes. So in order to make the window pane, I never make window panes where I cross these lines over. That just looks rather untidy. But what I will do is, now that we have drawn these lines, I will carefully make lines in pencil that indicate where that window is, and then draw double lines there. So let me show you how. So I'll draw the hollows. I know this is rather tedious, but this is the best way to do it. I'm using a thin pen for this. This takes me right back to that Mysore name, Masuri illustration. Windows, windows, windows. Okay, I'm going to switch to my ink pen because my pens are not working. Today is not my day. Then also make the window here. It's about the same size as the windows on the plane, on the side. Now, in order to make this look three-dimensional, we make that angle inside. And here you don't really need to bother with whether or not your uh, angles are absolutely accurate. It's so tiny that it really makes very little difference. So even the same angle on all the windows is perfectly okay. But do make that angle. Only on the top and left. So already you start seeing some kind of character coming to that feature. Now there are other parts over here which are not easy to see. Oh, there's a lamp over here also. Okay, just follow me in making this. Make a shape like that just next to this edge. And then a small shape like this, center lines straight, and a diamond shape at the bottom. The diamond shape should be a little less steeper than the one on the top. Again, a very small feature that even if you do not really attach all these lines to the um, vanishing points, it's okay. Now, the lamp has a line, has a beam or a rod on which it is placed. I'm not making that right now because that has to work with whatever our perspective lines are from that side. So I'll just make it in pencil so I know it's more or less here and I don't forget it. Right, then let's make a nice big fat beam at the bottom of the window. And the angles are very nice. So you can draw these angles in this shape. There is a lovely shape to them. And this shape also is pretty tiny, so you can almost repeat the same everywhere. As it comes in closer to us, it starts flattening, but it doesn't really matter too much. Now draw a line that is going to look like the other edge towards us. So it's not exactly parallel. And then the bottom. Then we get to little knob at the bottom here and the beam that comes below all of this. You can make a continuous line. Now, a little lower than the window on the left is where you will see the inside of the roof. And then from there, there's a line that goes at an angle outward to give us the edge of the inside of the roof to some extent. And then again, you have this angle coming downwards. So I'm going to encourage you to please keep looking at the image so you can see what I'm drawing and why I'm making that. So far, is everyone with me? angle has come a little inside the building. I wonder if you've noticed that. This should have been on the beam, but it's okay. Now let's draw the line that runs between in the middle of this whole section. And if these squiggles are too much, you can just make straight lines, because the same ones are repeating on the top and right also. So here's a problem that often occurs. What you see as parallel lines or perceive as parallel lines, in 3D perspective, suddenly that parallel line just goes for a toss. If you make it like a parallel line objectively looking at it, it will not be the same. Now there are a few things, like there's some embellishment over here that gives character to the building. It's like an ornament. It's like a little stud that makes the building look good. So you can just make that shape. It's a little blob. Doesn't really have much of an identity, but it's very nice to add that. Now the windows at the bottom have got tiny parapet-like shapes. So look at this adornment that we have in the center. Remember, this was where we had the middle of the building, windows. There are these triangular edges to our parapets, and they give us a good way to place our windows. And if your third window comes right underneath the right side of this anchor point, then you know that you are in the right direction. And then, like we made the windows on the top, first make the frame, or if you want, you can also make this where is my horizon line here? So you can make one part of the windows like this. I think my windows could have been a little taller, since this part protrudes outward. And then that same kind of blob like ornament at the base, but we can do that later once we know where the window panes end. Now when you come to the center line, knowing that this is a brick structure, you can make the line a little less stick straight. And just underneath the line of the windows, there is a cute little angle thing happening here. So these details are fun to add in a building. They add more personality to it. Then there is like a light meter here, which just looks like a blob with a white tap. And there's some wire and pipe. This becomes truly urban sketching. Here the frames are slightly different. They all have a little edge. So you can draw the edge like this and then draw the insides of the panes. Just so that this doesn't look too odd, join these corners. Then they look like the design that they're meant to look like. And we will give an additional line here.
शुक्रवारी
Is everyone with me? Do you need a minute?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think we can make the right side together? Okay, I'm going to create the grid for the right hand side like we had done the left hand side. Let's see. Okay, so suppose this is the halfway mark on the right. Then you have the 1/4 mark here. You just need a simple grid for this. You don't even need that internal measurement. Our horizon line was somewhere over here at about 1/3 from the top. This is 1/3 from the bottom. You know where this line can come from now. And you know where this line can go. Again, it will cross over like it had crossed over on the left hand side. And on the right, the roof will come ahead slightly from the middle point and it'll go at, I guess, 1/3 from on the top square as well. Yeah, so that is how steep it is. On the left, remember, we had drawn the bottom of the roof from one halfway up the first square to the middle, and here it is 1/3. That is how steep the angle is. And the rest of it you should get very quickly. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes to do this. We have about 15 minutes for class. I'll share this picture with you, and maybe what you can do is look at what I make and then make your own, or challenge yourself and make your own and then look at what I've made. All right. So divide this into 1/3, 1/3. Same thing. Here, 1/3. That's the horizon line. 1/3 from the bottom. This is the middle of the building. The door is somewhere here. The windows on buildings generally are the same level on both sides. So that can give you a cue to where to start the windows. And just that little thing can make the buildings look pretty well made. So all the windows will be on about the same height. The door is slightly shorter, doorway. Then you have some kind of beautiful design on the right side wall. And draw what you can. That which you can't, just ignore it. The beam on the right side wall is not at the same height as this beam. Now there is an angle for the roof here, which if you notice comes up a little to the right of the center line and comes down to where the middle of this square is and almost intersects the roof. That is the angle you make. You will probably not see it correctly. And then from there you make the other roofs and use the guidelines to figure out where those lines have to come down as well. So the lines which are closer to the center on a roof which is sloping, those lines will appear more upright, and the lines on the other side, actually wait, the other way around, they will appear more flatter and these lines will appear more upright. So see, this is at maybe 45 degrees, the further side will be at about 60 degrees. Same thing over here. The roof on the left is at about 45 degrees. I can see it according to this horizontal line. And the roof on the other side is at about 70 degrees or so. It's just more upright. So anything closer to the center will appear slightly flatter, and the one that is further away will appear steeper. And then building up to that 1/3 level, remember, that is where we'll draw these roofs. So at any point, if I tell you something and it's difficult to figure out, just look at the picture, because I'm only describing what I see in the picture to you. I'm not pulling out some rules of perspective or something that are a mystery. Absolutely not. I, honestly speaking, have no rules apart, no idea about the rules apart from what I've just told you last week. Because, like I said, those real strict rules of perception are good if you are a civil engineer or an architect, and your drawings are going to be used to make this structure. Otherwise, we need to know how to read those lines, that's all. Once you've finished making the grid, go back to the original image, because you'll see certain details in that which the grid will have hidden. I can see a pipe running down. That'll definitely look cute. Now, there's this question about tilting the book to draw the line that you're most comfortable with. This was asked in an earlier class. Somebody said, I can't draw a line in this one direction or this direction. What do I do? Can I tilt the book? Now, if you tilt the book, everything changes. So, if you're drawing the roof, and if you tilt the book, you'll never know whether or not you're getting the correct line. So, my recommendation is draw the line first in pencil and try to at least draw a rough line like that, just where the line should go, the starting point and the ending point. And then go ahead, tilt the book and see if that works. It works. But without that guidance, if you try to do it, there's a good chance that a very important line in your picture will tilt in the wrong direction just a little bit to give you the most dissatisfying result. For no reason. Okay, now this part I had not explained to you. So I got to the roof level by extending a line from the middle of these two windows. That is where this line goes straight up. And then a 45-degree angle here. This was I just looked at it and I drew it. And then I'm going to draw a line on this side. The funny thing is, if you don't think too much about it, you will see it. If it is like, if I were to just draw a cube like this, and if I don't think about it, this will look like a cube to me. But if I think about it too much, then I will draw something like that, and I will end up making something that looks unnatural. because you're thinking that I would draw a diamond on diamond and then I would join the apexes. Fortunately, we don't have to draw much of the roof beyond this point. Now there is some kind of CCTV camera over here, and I'm totally ignoring that. Doesn't go well with the picture like the lamp does. So I'm taking it off. Now, as far as possible, wherever you encounter these beams, try not to cross the lines over. Crossed lines make the picture look really messy. And it's a little bit, I feel, a little lazy. Remember that same shape on top of the windows on the left. Pretty much the same design. And now we can draw these embellishments. So I'm drawing these teardrop shapes just below where the joint between the buildings is. It's, you need not make it a very fancy thing, but please make it look at least like a silhouette of the shape that we are trying to make. Now there is a little pole here in the center that's on the street, and a very beautiful embellishment for the door. Every time you're drawing something, make sure that you pay attention to things like, in this case, the brickwork is slightly different. There is some stone included in the within the bricks. And also see that the stone is on the frame, not on the door itself.
Arati,
Yeah.
I need to leave, so I'll just complete this later.
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
Okay, bye. So part of our building is not visible. We can just end that building on
की
the.
मला एक डाऊट आहे.
हाँ बोल ना.
ऐक ना, आता ह्याच्यामध्ये वरती 3 आपण सेकंड स्क्वेअरच्या खालचा म्हणजे डोरच्या इकडचा,
हाँ
सो थर्ड थर्ड ब्ल्यूच्या खाली डोर दिसतोय आणि तुझा आय थिंक सो त्याच्या पुढे घेतलायस का तो थोडासा.
डोर का
हम्म.
थर्डच्या खाली नाही तिकडेच आहे पण माझा थर्ड इथे आहे. 1/3 इथे आहे, होरायझन इथे आहे आणि स्क्वेअर इज हिअर. त्याच्या
ओके,
तिकडेच आलंय.
तिथेच आहे का? हा, माझा
ती जशी लाईन येईल ते तसंच पडेल म्हणजे मला फारसं काही करायलाच नाही लागत. Here the roof is held up with again those same weird shapes, angles. But there's a curved angle. Funny calling it a curved angle. And then there are windows in between. This is very complicated, so if you feel you want to just omit this part, just make more of this design and keep the rest empty. But if you just try to draw it in pencil first, you will get it. I'm fairly confident.
Aditi, I have to leave, but I will finish up. I've
All
done
right.
it.
I
Thank you.
will be making the shadow colors in this in the end. So those who feel you need to leave, please do. I will just finish this up. I'm not coloring the whole thing because that is really not our focus this time. But this will be finished today. But it is extending a little bit, so feel free to leave according to your time. Now, even up here where we've got these chimneys, there are several angles to the chimney as well. And these are very cute to draw. So I draw one part of one chimney at a time. So this is like one box. To that, the next one can be attached. So you draw one face at a time.
But Aditi, are those chimneys pertaining to this building?
Looks like it. So there's two here that seem to be attached to this building. In any case, it makes for a nice embellishment. But if you feel that it is too much, you can omit it.
Okay.
I doubt if any of us would be able to tell whether they belong to this building or not. Honestly. Okay, chimneys are done. Now the roof over here. So this side also, I prefer to not have my lines go crisscrossing. So I will look for clues like which beam seems to be overlapping the others and try to draw it in pretty much the same manner in which they might have constructed the whole structure. And even for these things, I will look for cues on the roof itself. In this, you'll probably notice how the beams are more or less parallel to each other on each panel. So in the past, we have drawn some of these buildings like this. Little angle has gone off, but that's okay. So it helped to visualize this at an angle if you have done that. I'll look for the video on these Tudor buildings. I think we have something. Should be it. There is a mailbox here, a few other things here and there. And I generally like to put in some sense of environment. So I will make this pavement Maybe even extend it a little to this side. Probably even the little hole here. And that should be it for now. So like I said, all these can be colored with just a little bit of shadow effect that adds some dimensions to the building. Actually, let me leave the lines so you can see them through the painting. And for the painting, I'm just using some colors from my palette, just a little blue, maybe a little purple, and I just want you to see this because I'm going to end in about 5 minutes, so you can keep your pens down just for
आदिती फोटो काढून घेशील बिफोर यू पेंट
before. Okay, that's a good idea.
your roof is looking, the front portion is looking so beautiful. I wish I can.
Yeah, but can you see it's slightly tilted? I could
Tilted, yeah, but
have
it's looking
tilted
very
it
nice.
forward. Yeah. Okay, now you can see that. So I'm putting shadows in where I feel there are shadows, and in that, I don't even have to keep them too accurate to the color, as long as they look like that's where the uh, either things are protruding or receding. So this is a good way to study whether your 3D has worked or not. And you can literally change this to any kind of color. Like for the bottom, maybe I could also, instead of blue, make a scarlet wall on the side that it is shaded, and add elements of blue maybe. So you see, I'm not being super careful with where the paint is sitting. It doesn't really affect the painting for accuracy, but the general area where the shadows lie, that is where I want to put the color. Some underneath these windows, inside the door. And let it play around. Then suppose you feel you want to add that black and white, you can consider making something like this also, just a general gray texture which you can put along the beams because they're so pretty and they add so much character, but it doesn't have to be a complete black line. So you can choose to make the building present any character you wanted to. And in that lies your creative expression. So there's no rule that says if you're making just a shadow, you cannot make the embellishments. Absolutely no rules. There are I guess it would be, the only rule is keep it like a personal statement. How can you make this look like it's your own and different from anybody else's? If there were 10 people making an illustration here, how would yours be different? What would be your USP or signature? And again, I can leave it with only one side painted. That's cool too. And I just happen to have a very lovely neutral color for the pavement. So this can be it, or I can continue and do some more stuff with paint and make it more, add more personality. It's all entirely open. All right.